Hi, Shalini, and welcome to the About Her show.
Thanks, Sangeeta.
Most welcome. So, this show is about women achievers who we call women trailblazers, women who we feel have, along with the mundane of life and everything else that they have to do, they've managed to follow their ambitions, aspirations, and reach a certain stage in life where they can look back and reflect and, talk about their successes, challenges, ups and downs, all of that. So basically, this is a platform which lets them talk about their journey, their achievements, and successes and failures. And along with that, it is also an opportunity for the listeners, to get inspired and get out of whatever is holding them back from realizing their goals, ambitions, and dreams. And eventually, we want to build a community of women who are there to support, empower, help each other, mentor each other. So that's the whole point. So once again, welcome, and let's get started.
Yeah. So I think firstly, Sangeeta, thanks for this opportunity. And I must say that this is a great initiative. Providing a platform for women to actually talk about their story, their narrative is really very powerful. So I think kudos to you for actually being able to run and lead this, and bring the right women and build your community. So I'm hoping this kind of continues and you do extremely well in that space as well. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Okay, so just to kind of break the ice, so just tell us a little bit about your childhood, early life, and if you think that the experiences that you had at that point in life, they kind of influenced you to take the path that you have taken in life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think each one of our experiences, kind of builds our personality. So early days, my life kind of. So I grew up in Bombay. So my parents moved from Delhi to Bombay just when I was born, in a way, to set up their own life in Bombay. So I grew up more with my parents' friends rather than family. So friends who were like family. So and also friends coming from different diverse backgrounds. So I think Bombay in a way provided a set for multicultural setup. So you kind of take away from the nuances of the culture, the food, the habits. And I personally thought that how it shaped me really was that you become more adaptable to different cultures. I also studied in a Parsi school, so that was again very diverse in terms of how you grow up. And I could fluently speak Marathi those days because we kind of learned Marathi in school, but I could follow Gujarati because Parsi had a Gujarati dialect. I had friends who were Bengali, so we could do that. So multicultural setup was pretty much the norm those days for me when I grew up. So that was one aspect which I think, in a way, builds adaptability. The other thing I think, growing up, my mom in a way, uh, is a bachelor's in science from Miranda House in biology.
Okay.
And my dad is an engineer from Thapar Institute of Technology those days. So we were kind of a STEM family in a way. So it was kind of inherent that STEM learning was kind of inherent. So while we were growing up, doing math as a regular thing was the norm. So while you're watching your Chitrahar or whatever you're doing there, you just have to make sure that your maths exercises are being done. And that was more like a norm rather than a discipline. It was just kind of become a part of the thing. Or for that matter, when you're driving in the car and my dad is dropping me to school, I had to narrate my tables. So my tables until 20 are like this even today. So building math and building science became a norm, for us in those days.
Okay.
So I think that kind of instills your STEM thinking and STEM learning, because that it kind of starts from there. Having said that, while there was a lot of structure and but the discipline was not such that we did not have our space. So we were pretty much a family where we could be very candid about what we want to do, our aspirations. So I think that bit of culture set up in Bombay for us was helps us grow as people who are very empowered, because you're just kind of you're very candid with your parents, you're candid with your parents' friends, and so on. So, so that was again something. And I think most importantly, I grew up with my younger brother.
Okay.
And when I reflect back, I tell myself that I grew up in a culture where there were no biases. There was nothing that my brother had to do differently than I had to do differently. And I think that again is very important, in creating that level playing field for anybody to thrive. So now when we raise our children, as you can imagine, we raise our children in this generation pretty much with no biases. And I think those days also I grew up with no biases. And I believe that when you provide that level playing field, it gives you the opportunity to bring the best of yourself.
Yes.
So whether you're doing that for yourself or whether you're doing it for your children or your teams at work, just the fact that you're providing them with a culture which is of no biases enables you to thrive.
Yeah.
And I think the last thing probably to call out was that my mom was, I won't say very ambitious, but pretty much had a clear set of uh, goals that she would set up for us. So it was always about, okay, so what do you want to do next? So what do you want to do next? And so it was, so the conversations on the dining table or the conversations in general were, okay, so what is my brother going to do next, or what am I going to do next? Because it was a nuclear family end of the day, and really, it was a lot about us. So I noticed that I kind of now eventually, when I'm either at work or with on my own, I am setting short-term or long-term goals, and I am asking myself, so what next?
Great. Very
So I
interesting.
think that's how it is.
Very interesting, because yes, brought it out so clearly and so obviously that your upbringing, the way you are raised, makes a lot of difference.
It's a lot of difference.
Like these
Absolutely.
silly things. Of course, we'll talk about your, forays into STEM and all that. But yes, these are these childhood experiences, or the, how should I say, the influences, or what your parents make you do, that really makes a lot of difference. So tell me, Shalini, when you were growing up, did you have any ambitions, in the sense, did you kind of think of what you were going to do when you, grew up and became independent? Because I remember I wanted to become an air hostess. I remember there was a dinner at our place, and there was this very good looking girl who had come. And incidentally, her name was Sagita. So that's where my name comes from.
Oh, so cute.
And she was a hostess. So I I think I was maybe 3 or 4 years old, but I still have that memory that I looked at her and I decided that all good-looking girls become an air hostess, and they are named Sagita. So
How
like
sweet
that.
is that?
Did you have any dreams when you were growing
So
up?
yeah, okay. So I think in the world that we were growing up those days, all successful women were doctors, and
Okay.
all successful men were engineers, right? We kind of grew up in that ecosystem. So I
Okay.
think implicitly somewhere there was an understanding that if I have to be successful, I need to be a doctor, which
Okay.
is probably the myth I busted for myself and for the family. When I think towards, so do remember my mom is a bio teacher, okay? So it was pretty much inherent that my bio was very good and so on. But I
Hmm.
think my math was also very good. So I think towards the last mile when I had to make a decision, I
Yeah.
chose to do engineering as in physics, eventually. So I
Uh-huh.
chose to do that because I was also very inspired some way about my dad's corporate life and how he was living his life. So eventually I took that path. So I kind of busted that whole thing of not wanting to do medicine.
Hmm.
Having said that, and I think this is probably interesting. The other thing I wanted to be, probably more implicitly, was a news anchor.
Oh,
So
okay.
I would watch the 10 o'clock news with my dad as a religion. It was my bonding time with my dad. I was very young, and half the time I would not follow the English news in the sense that there were some words, there was some parlance, so there were some political aspects which you kind of grow up to really really appreciating. But I
Yeah.
used to be so enamored by the flow of language, the style of the news anchors those days, and the saris they would wear and
Oh,
all.
yes.
And I was like, it used to be my time when I was not only taking away from the news.
Mhm.
I remember there used to be times when the words wouldn't, so you kind of pick up the dictionary the next day and read. I would read and you say, okay, now I follow what that meant, and then come back to the next day with the news. So it was like a thing. But I used to be more enamored by the saris they would wear, and I would say, oh my God, look at this. And slowly, when I grew into doing that, that became my, it kind of became one of the things I wanted to do on the side.
Mhm.
Uh, I did apply some time back also to, when I remember graduating and applying to become a newsreader. Didn't make it because getting through India, through the normal newsreading application space is very impossible, almost impossible.
Yeah.
But that was one of my inherent aspiration that I wanted to do.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
And believe it or not, as I grew up, so from an air hostess, when I was around, I think 12, 13, I graduated to wanting to become a news anchor. And for the same reasons, the way they used to speak, the way they used to conduct themselves, their saris, all of those. So I think somewhere with my podcasting, I have kind of tried to realize that ambition. Yeah, so interesting.
Yes, yes.
I guess we
And
grew up
interestingly,
same time,
yeah, and
similar
interesting,
time.
like,
So yeah.
yeah, it's a similar times, so you kind of get influenced by similar things, right?
Yeah.
And interestingly, I run a lot of these fireside chats with leaders in my organization. So whenever we have senior women leaders in my organization, I also run fireside chats.
Wonderful.
So that eventually gives me
Yes.
an opportunity to kind of live my dream. So yeah, that's something I do pretty actively. Yeah.
So, Shalini, a little bit about the work that you do. So, you are in the space of STEM and also DI. So, just expand a little bit on that and tell us about what you do.
Yeah. So I think my corporate journey started. Interestingly, I did my postgraduate in physics, and those days, you didn't have campus placements, right? Very far and few campus placements that would come in, and that also in Delhi University. Delhi University campus placements have started happening more recently.
Yeah.
So you can imagine 25 years back when we were doing our campus placements. We had telco and Tata Engineering come in. So Tata Engineering was generally hiring only engineers, but came in to hire a few postgrad in physics and stats so that they could fill in for the demand that they had in IT.
Okay.
So that kind of started my journey, and and how it kind of shaped up was that Tata Engineering was looking at engineers. So we were a batch of 60 engineers, and 6 girls of the 60 engineers. So my journey as being a minority in the group kind of started early in my career. So, but obviously it comes with its rewards. You get a lot of attention. So I think I kind of enjoyed that in those days when I was 21, I think, was my first job. But I think that's what but it really shaped my career journey, because we would be trained in the classroom in the morning.
Okay.
And we would be on the job in the afternoon. So we would learn C++ in the morning and be on the job in the afternoon to actually start using that. So, it was just could not have been better in terms of wanting to, start your career in IT at those days. So I worked there for 2 years, and I think it kind of shaped my personality in terms of bringing in not only the technology aspect, but working in a factory. It was a factory culture. So we would be, at 21 or 22, you can imagine, you would be wearing a uniform, going to I went to the Pimpri Chinchwad campus, which was where all the production of your Tata automobiles is done. So that's where it is. We would go onto the shop floors, walk through the shop floors into the management services division, and work there. As young grads who were hired in IT. That started my journey in IT, and there was no stopping after that, because while you learn, so I think for me, learning has been a constant endeavor. So you learn on the job, but you can imagine how the technology landscape has changed from where we were, when I started my career to where we are now. The only thing that helps you get going is to constantly upskill yourself, because otherwise, and staying relevant, because otherwise it's very easy to be left behind. True. Or so I think that was an important part of shaping my career. And then, of course, I joined an organization called Ericsson HP Telecom. So I went into the telecom space where I used to be in and out of Sweden because a lot of work used to happen out of Gothenburg and Sweden. And I then forwarded into telecom billing solutions. Again, was very interesting work. I worked there for 5 to 6 years. And that again shaped in, my career in terms of product implementation. So, so there are two aspects. One is software development, the other is product implementation. So I kind of shaped that, and I kind of understood what that meant in terms of telecom billing implementation. So that was again very interesting. I had a short stint in Sri Lanka because my husband was posted in Sri Lanka through EY. And I worked with an organization called John Keel's Computer Services, which is like the Tatas of Sri Lanka.
Okay.
And again, very culturally different, but again, very similar, when it comes to the, work. So I worked with them for a few years. So I think those were a few things that kind of were formative in my early years of my career.
Okay.
And I think what really changed, or what really was a game changer, was the fact that I set up my own company in 2005, where startups were far and few.
Yeah.
Startup as a word did not exist. I think people did not call it startup. It was like, oh, you're doing something on your own. And I had to explain that, no, I am setting up a company. I have set it up with a UK partner, and we're looking at product development solutions and so on. So it was very interesting. And I ride for 6 years till I made a decision to logically wind it down. And took up a job with the Royal Bank of Scotland, and have been there ever since. So I've been with the Royal Bank of Scotland, which is now being branded as the NatWest Group, in the technology space for 12 years. And but I think the reason that I continue to be with the bank and continue to work here is that I enjoy or appreciate, the culture of the place. So the culture of the place and what it brings to you in terms of your holistic development eventually becomes very important in terms of your career choices. So I think as a bank, it's a purpose-led bank, as they call it, thriving on building themselves as a learning organization. So you can imagine that's their tagline, and they kind of live that. So it eventually becomes a culture of living, with very strong values, and I enjoy being in that space. So
it so resonates with you and what you stand for. It's like,
exactly,
coming together of two similar kind of, how should I say, entities in that sense. All right. So tell me, when you decided to get into this space of STEM and technology and all of that. In fact, when you were talking about your early days with telco, I was reminded of Sudha Murthy, because her journey was yes, she was the only one.
Absolutely right. Actually, so Sudha Murthy, interestingly, her first job was at Telco Pune.
Yes. I know.
And exactly, and at the same campus that we were, and you can imagine, since actually we owe our job to her in a way, because there were no women hires then.
Yes.
And she had written to JRD to say that why can a woman not be hired? We kind of owe that to her. So there was a lot of resistance. We were just 6 of us. You can imagine, on the campus of 60 living on campus, and walking to the shop floors. But yeah, you're absolutely right. That's been it's the same place that I started in a way. So I kind of proud about that in a way. Yeah.
Of course. So tell me, when you started this journey, I'm sure you faced several challenges along the way. And I'm sure your challenges some of those must have had to do with your gender as well. So could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. So I think, of course, women in technology were far and few those years. So as you kind of grow into your role, you kind of hit into conversations which are like, oh, this is really technical, and who do we hand this over to? And that's when you realize that, sometimes are people looking at you for more of your leadership and your other facets that you bring to the table. But what about technology? I have started, as much as probably any other peer of mine would have started, in terms of being an early start. So my grounding or my foundation is as strong as any other person. So there used to be times when you had to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
You had to make sure that you are over trying to overachieve at times, because you're like telling yourself that I need to put in more so that I'm not discounted
Yeah.
in terms of my technology understanding and knowledge. So I think there were times when I faced to that. There are of course times when you're the only member in a room of in a meeting room, and you're trying to make a point, and that again there are going to be chances that if your point is really strong, then you're going to be discounted for a bit. So I think those were there, but it's changing a lot. It's changing a lot, of course. But having said that, there have been times when I was just 24, and I think I was looking for a change of job coming into Delhi, and people would ask me that in the interview, would ask me that, and we hear that very often, and I have faced into that. So when are you getting married? And I'm like, really? How does that matter? Why does that matter so much? But those years, it pretty much did matter that, oh, if you get married, then you're not going to be working, and so on. So it was about the journey really was about breaking all those stereotypes and trying to tell yourself that no, if your career is important for you, you will have to invest in yourself and make a place for yourself. And I think that, I believe, has been a constant endeavor, and it continues to be. Because even if you grow in senior leadership roles, there are times when it's very easy to step out of the race. Because because the men are obviously trying to move very fast. They don't want they don't want to slow down. But are you able to keep pace with them? That's a constant endeavor, and I think I've had to work really hard to make sure I'm staying at pace with the rest of the men, and continue to create value and content, and make sure the right technology conversations are happening on the table. And having said that, I probably lead a very, very strong technology-driven platform, responsible for digitalization. And I can say that I hire a lot of women in my team as well, and make sure that they're also upskilled and mentored by me. And but I can tell you that there is no difference, or probably our commitments as women technology leaders is probably higher than men when we bring that conversation to the table. And very interestingly, I also work with very strong women leaders, who are based in the UK. So you get very inspired by them, when that happens. And I think my takeaway from that is that I try and make sure that I'm making a difference to other women leaders because of the learning that I've had from them. So I think that's really where you face into challenges, you kind of live through them, but more importantly, you need to make sure that you're lifting as you climb, as they say. So you're helping others as you go, and you do that. So I think those were the things which is pretty much a part of our work, growing up years. But and for example, you're starting a family, there was nothing like hybrid working. Those years. Either you're in the race or you're out of the race. There was, so, and I remember having my children. And I knew very well that I'm not going to be out of this race, because this is my aspiration, and I'm going to live, live my dream there. So I joined back like in 3 months after I had both my babies. But now today, I believe that the work that organizations and the world in a way is doing on DE&I, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, is so important, is so pertinent in terms of creating that level playing field that we want to give back to our women. And I personally lead that for the NatWest Group in India as part of the India Council, so that we can create equitable practices and make it easier for women in the workforce.
And you're so right. Challenges, I guess, every individual faces. They're of different kinds, of course. You look at them as an opportunity, and I guess that makes all the difference.
Absolutely.
Shalini,
Absolutely.
of course, the world has progressed. It's become more accepting of women, coming into STEM and, of course, making a name and place for themselves. But still, it is still, not that easy for girls to get into STEM areas for various reasons. So, would you have any tips that you would like to share with any girl or any parent wanting their daughter to get into this space?
Yeah, firstly, I think it's a myth that women in technology or STEM learning is not for girls. It's
Yeah.
definitely a myth that all of us need to collectively bust. The other thing is that, early years of your education, if you think that you're good at math and you're good at science, then there is, one should definitely look at moving into STEM fields, because your analytical mind will help you with the kind of innovation mindset that technology is expecting of you.
Yeah.
And I think from my experience, I can say that being a part of a technology driven initiative or innovation is so fulfilling
Hmm.
that you will realize that while you're kind of working through different realms of life, your innovative mindset
Yeah.
will kind of broaden.
Hmm.
So and again, and I think that's the tip that I'll probably want to give young girls in STEM, or that if you believe it's a leap of faith moment for you for making that decision, then do that,
Hmm.
because the innovation it offers is going to be very fulfilling in terms of not only your career but also your self development.
Okay. All right. So we are all, of course, human beings with our different orientations, mood swings,
Yeah.
ups and downs. So, but of course, along with that, we also have a life path and our, ambitions and aspirations and all of that. So, how do you keep yourself centered? The days when you're feeling down and out, how do you keep yourself motivated and on
um I think firstly, I think I'm a huge optimist. So I definitely look at the world, you know uh, as a glass half full rather than empty. And to the extent, sometimes my husband says that, oh, do you not see any risks in this? I'm like, no. I kind of see the opportunity there.
Okay.
So I'm a huge optimist. And I don't get easily dragged down by aspects, and I kind of pull myself through. Having said that, I think what keeps me going, and it's is about this concept of setting up goals for myself, right? And I
Yeah.
and I and I tell myself that, and those goals are not necessarily my professional goals. They could be my personal goals about how I'm raising my children, or it could be my personal, aspirations of wanting to learn something new, learning how to sing or do something else, and so on. So it could be anything.
Yeah.
So I constantly set myself a goal which I'm trying to achieve,
Okay.
um, and my tagline and my mantra to myself, and I kind of use that for many a times, is that follow your dreams and they know the way. So
Wow.
if you do lose your way,
Hmm.
somewhere you'll be able to find your path because you have a dream to follow. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of keeps me going, and I think once you have that very, very strongly embedded in you, the
Hmm.
world helps you. The world manifests what you want to,
Yeah.
what you want to achieve. So I think all that I have achieved to date, in terms of my own personal success, my children, my family, and whatever I believe is
Hmm.
success, is because I set that up as something I wanted to achieve for myself as a goal. So I think that's what it is.
Very interesting and very inspiring too. So you're talking about, of course, success. So when you walk into a party or when you meet people and they see you as a successful woman who is doing what she wants to do, and of course, success can be defined in various ways, but I think in terms of largely what being able to do what you want to do. So how does the world react to such women? And here I'm talking about both men and women. How do they take to such women?
So I think it's very the way the world looks at success women is very diverse.
Hmm.
One aspect of that is that most of the people firstly
Okay.
discount the success of women. Yeah.
Hmm.
So like you said, you walk into a party with your spouse, and the host will introduce your spouse as, oh, this is so and so, from so and so, doing so
Yeah.
and so, and
Yeah.
this is his wife.
Yes.
and this
Yes.
is his wife, and a full stop, and stops there, right? So you don't, very rarely will, will you notice that somebody will try to make it a point that, or try to give you your identity or your presence, which is beyond the role that you play with, as a wife.
I
So I
agree.
think, even if you're successful, many a times you're discounted,
Hmm.
because it
Hmm.
doesn't matter how successful you are. What matters is that, is your spouse or is your husband, are you with a husband who's more successful, or and so on. So I
Yeah.
think that's one thing which I believe is really pretty much strongly there in the society. And
Hmm.
on the other extreme, if there's a very successful woman who's very aggressive,
Yeah.
then a lot of people don't take that kindly and get, they're like, oh my god, very aggressive successful woman, blah blah, and
Yeah.
so on. So I think it's really very extreme, and I think what really needs to change is that we need to find this middle ground of having the world recognize women, who have their own identity or have created their own identity in the world for
Hmm.
what they bring to the world in their own small way, maybe, because
Yeah.
everybody's making their own choices, right, end of the day.
Hmm.
So I think, a lot is changing today, which was not there earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going into parties, and nobody would even ask me what I was doing. Forget about knowing what I was doing. So it's like, oh, do you even have that conversation about what you're doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas, each one of us, whether it's a man or a woman, have invested in our lives in wanting to have a career and doing, want to achieve what we want to achieve in our own small way. So it's time that, the world starts recognizing people as equal, men and women as equal, rather than, having this clearly polarized views about women.
Yeah, that's true. I agree. I mean, even I've had these conversations with people when they talk about successful women, the first thing that I mean, not the first, but one of the things that they say is, oh, she's very politicking. And I just look at them and say, why her? And if a man were in the same position, wouldn't he have
Exactly.
also? I mean, how can you differentiate? But believe it or not, it does happen.
Exactly.
I mean, if
Exactly.
she's there, she's
It'll be like raised
politicking.
eyebrows.
Yeah, she's aggressive. She's this. I mean, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, yeah, yeah. That is there. But
Exactly.
I guess with what we people have done in terms of, pushing and getting to where we wanted to, I think things have started changing. And I guess, like
Yeah.
I'm a total, complete optimist, and I feel that they can only get better from here. It,
Absolutely. They're only going to get better. Yeah.
yeah,
And I think the more men are going to be self-assured, you know, the more we have more self-assured men. So, there are many times in the organization we talk about how many men are inclusive, genuinely inclusive, you
absolutely.
know. And I tell myself that, the more men are self-assured, they are inclusive. There are many men, who are not,
Not,
and
yeah,
probably that needs to change. So,
yeah.
so in organizations like ours, what we do is that we try to build what we call as male allies.
Okay.
So while we look at diversity, equity, inclusion, we have women supporting the cause, we have
Hmm.
male allies supporting the cause,
Hmm.
so that we bring in a level of consciousness to the male members in the corporate group,
Yeah.
to experience what a woman is going through when she's actually, struggling, or getting, working through challenges of managing people and teams and so on, so that they kind of step into their world and, start appreciating that world. And
Yeah.
this male allyship is becoming a very important enabler in terms of creating and leveling the field.
Hmm. Hmm. So, Shalini, well, while we are living life and going through various experiences and doing what we want to do, sometimes life does give us a few knockings, a few lessons, a few learnings, which we think, we could share with others so that maybe if they want to pay heed to our experiences, they will not have to go through them. So, is there anything like that that you've gone through which you would want, the coming generation, younger
Yeah,
girls, boys for that matter, to not experience?
yeah, yeah. Right. Okay. So, I'll probably say here that, we talked about how it was important to have your aspiration, your dream, and your goal, right? So eventually,
Yeah.
that's really important in terms of what you want to achieve. But as you grow in life, you realize that, when I was looking at my own life, I realized that, oh, when I got married, I had, while I had one goal of, wanting to have a career in life and so on, when I got married, my goals were different. So I was looking at multiple goals. I had to make sure that my marriage is successful. I had to make sure my children are raised well. And, and eventually you realize that you are balancing or juggling multiple balls. And sometimes it's very important that, we're not throwing one ball too high for the others to drop. So you need to make sure that you have a fair balance when you're juggling multiple balls, that so that you can continue running with it, and you don't drop a few balls there. So I think that is my learnings experience, and I think what I have done is that in order to do that, many a times you have to make conscious choices. And that's when you have to tell yourself that what is the choice I need to make so that I can balance it all, and be happy about it. And I think as long as a woman is empowered to make her choices, you're in a happy state. So if I have to give any message to anybody, I would say that life is about is about making choices, and choose them wisely. Choose them wisely. Just make sure that you're making the right decisions. And then I think that's what it is, because many a times, for example, working in a UK company for so many years, I was offered to work out of the UK. And I know that for my career, for that aspiration, probably that may have just propelled my journey. But what would it mean in terms of my children, my family, my friends, my social life, and so on? Would that give me everything that I wanted? Maybe not. I made the choice to not take that career option. There are no right or wrong answers there. Right? It is absolutely what you want to achieve and what gives you that happiness. So I think that's really where my sense is. So if I have to give any message to people, it's really about saying that as a woman, you're balancing multiple balls, you're juggling through a lot of things. So make sure that they're all up in the air, and in their own high, instead of one ball going too high and then dropping.
So that's a very interesting point that you've made, that don't throw one ball that high that the others will automatically drop. I think that's very, very interesting, because no matter what, whether we like it or not, we do have to juggle balls. We do have to juggle roles. That comes with the package. So you have to be rational, wise, smart enough to know that, I have to do it, and be practical also. You just can't keep running after one goal or one ball. Forget about the others. That's not happening. So yeah, that's very interesting. So that's probably, you answered my next question also, that's how you juggle your various balls, which is very true. You have to juggle, but keep them like within, what should I say, safe distance, where you catch them if they are.
Exactly. Yeah. And as long as I said, as long as you're making those choices and nobody else is making them for you.
Yes.
Believe
absolutely.
me, then you're in an empowered state, because it was your sense of happiness is because, oh my, I made that choice. Many and nobody can tell me that, oh, why didn't you do that? No, it was my choice. I made that.
So Shalini, young girls nowadays on the verge or on the threshold of their personal and professional lives. How important do you think, of course, you would think, and so would I, that how important it is for them to understand that they should be financially, emotionally independent? It's not only about, of course, it's about having your identity and maybe, for a rainy day and all of those things. But so you have daughters. How can parents kind of ensure that the daughters understand that? I mean, how do you make it clear to them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, you're right. So, while of course you're firming up your identity, believe me, you are truly empowered when you're economically independent.
Yes.
You could have married the richest man in the world.
Yeah.
But are you economically dependent on him? Will define how empowered you are. Will define, a lot of things. So I think for me, whether it is in a small means or a larger means of life, it's really important to be financially independent. And when life throws challenges at you, you'll realize how important that is. There are times when people are faced into multiple challenges,
Yes, yes.
in life. You just don't know what gets thrown at you. But having said that, the moment you're economically independent, you are a more empowered person. So I would definitely say that, do what you like. Just make sure that somewhere in this world, while you're building your identity, you're also ensuring that your economic ability to be able to sustain yourself. Because the moment you are dependent on on anyone else, whether it's your spouse or anybody else, and the moment you're doing that, you're taking away from your your independence.
Yeah. And emotionally?
Yeah. Emotionally, I think is one aspect where I personally think is pretty level. I think men also emotionally want to draw a lot from people and women. Of course, women tend to be having a more of a they're probably more vocal about their emotions, but I think men are also equally emotional and look for emotional dependence. So I think I don't see anything wrong in being emotionally dependent on others. But as I keep saying that, because it's always nice to have friends, family,
Yeah.
your spouse with whom you are, you have that bond where you can be yourself and you can share your emotions.
Yeah.
But end of the day, as I keep saying, it's about your choice. So you make your own decisions. So make sure that you are strong enough to be able to stand up for yourself, so
Yeah.
that nobody kind of overrides what you want to do. So I think that's my thing about emotion. So choose your friends wisely, make sure that you have the right people in your world.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's
Yeah,
what it is.
true, true. And yes, you're right. Both men and women, they need to be emotionally dependent. Only I think somewhere, because of the kind of society that we are, men don't show their emotions. But it's not,
Exactly, they're less vocal about it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Shalini, all around us,
Hmm.
see people. I mean, I'm also guilty to a certain extent of that. That once people nowadays reach their, midlife, say early 40s, late 40s, they start looking to do different things, things which are different from what they've been doing all this while. And I like to call it their midlife rebooting. Suddenly you want to start singing, suddenly you want to start writing, suddenly you want to go hiking,
Right.
various things which maybe, somewhere they were kind of buried deep inside you, but now they are finding that opportunity to come out and,
Yeah.
thrive and grow. So, why do you think this is happening now? I mean, are we trying to say that our parents or people from that generation did not have other aspirations, did not want to do other things, but we did not see them doing it? So, why do you think
Yeah.
you attribute this?
So I think it's got to do a lot with our economic sustenance. I think a lot of the world, in India specifically, as you can see,
Yeah,
there's a lot of financial and economic sustenance that we've had, which was probably not as common many years back.
yeah,
I'm talking more generally here, right? So now when we reach we kind of add a logical stage of life where we believe that the core duties that we had to take on, are
yeah,
kind of achieved. It's now about living our lives. It's like if there's a dream that you wanted to live, then the time is today rather than tomorrow.
yeah,
Completely live it up. So I think for people who are actually stepping into taking on new hobbies, new, it's never too late. It's just never too late. Just take that on. Like for me, I learned as a child. I learned Bharatanatyam. So I'm a trained classical dancer in Bharatanatyam, and I'm sure
oh, I
none
didn't
of
know
my
that.
friends know about it.
Yeah, yeah,
None
I
of
know.
my friends know about it because yeah, I went up to Arangetram, so I kind of did the whole this thing. But so initially I thought that I'll whenever I get a chance, I will learn how to dance and do things. But
Hmm.
interestingly, I never learned Indian classical. I never learned how to sing.
Okay.
But having said that, just very recently, I'm st- I, you know I, I'm trying to tell myself that can I learn Indian classical, and I tell myself it's never too late. So my teacher tells me that, you know what I like, you may not have a great voice, but I love your confidence, because you believe that
You can do it.
you will be able to achieve this, and you'll be able to do
Yeah.
this, and he tells me that, believe me, just that confidence will pull you through a song. Don't worry about how well you sing.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So I think that's really what it is, so just live your dreams, just live what you want to do, because it's just never too late. And yeah, and if you have an ecosystem of the right people in the world, whom you have, they'll kind of pull you through, what you want to do in life. So I think it's really important.
So you're right. I think this financial ability, the fact that we have that financial wherewithal, and plus, I think all this exposure also, where especially through
Awesome.
social media, you see a lot of people doing other things. You get to know that there are so many other things that you can do. So yeah, that I think
Correct.
together is making it easier.
Absolutely.
And also
Absolutely.
the world is
And
more.
we get inspired.
Yes,
Yeah.
you get inspired. World is
We
more
get inspired by each other.
in fact, encouraging too. So yeah.
Yeah. As much as we may think that social media brings, brings its own aspects of negative challenges, it opens up avenues in terms of, we learning from others' experiences and
Yeah.
getting inspired by what people are doing. And I think
So
that's the way one should look at it, rather than bring yourself down to say that, oh my God, So I think that's the other bit.
the glass half full here.
Yeah, the glass half full, absolutely.
Yeah. So Shalini, where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
Yeah, so you know what, so I see myself uh, pursuing a corporate career as long as I can.
Yeah, okay.
And as long as I enjoy what I do, whether through, and kind of within the technology space. As I said, I'm working very hard in terms of upskilling myself in the digitalization of the business.
Okay.
So I'm looking at continuing to invest in myself in terms of this fast changing Gen AI based learning. So I am picking up new aspects of what does digitalization and transformation mean for banks. So I'm hoping that that's something I'll continue to run with for the next few years and upskill myself. I'm also, I also have an opportunity very recently. So my boss in the UK is on the board of a company called Tech She Can, which is empowering or helping young students learn STEM. So that it's pretty much there in the UK. So I'm looking at how I can bring that opportunity to schools in India. So I've just about started that. Yeah, so it's about actually giving back to the world in my little small way by helping enable STEM learning in school. So that's the other thing I've just about started.
Great.
And I'm hoping I can take that through with the help of the organization that I'm working with now, and then slowly, try and see if I can do more there. And if not that, directly through that organization, maybe through other means, if I can bring STEM learning to school, then that'll be great. I've raised two girls, as you know, in STEM. So my elder one is studying to be a computer science grad. The younger one is studying to be an architect. So I believe that if whatever experience I have gained by raising them and my own personal experience, I can bring them to children in schools, and I would definitely want to do that. So those are the two things that. So one is continue to stay relevant as far as I can, and my husband says that it's okay, I will retire, you can continue. I said fine. I'm as long as I can, I will, and I will hopefully do this Tech She Can opportunity for schools.
That's
Those are the
really
few things that I want to do.
Really commendable. All the best to you. I'm sure you'll be able to do it, like with everything else. And if you manifest, as you say, you get to do it.
You get to it, absolutely. So those are the few things on my mind. Of course, as I go, I will want to hone my other skills. As I said, I'm starting to learn how to sing, and if I can stand out there and start doing that, then more socially, just for fun, maybe. As I say that, I keep telling myself, life it's not about the destination, it's the journey.
Yes.
So as long as you are having fun, so you do what you want to do, but just make sure you're having some fun on the way. So my life has been about making sure that I'm enjoying every bit of what I'm doing, rather than just waiting to achieve what I want to achieve in life.
That's actually the way to be. So,
Yeah.
my final question, which I ask every woman, and of course, you choose to answer it any which ways because it's very interesting to see the different perspectives on this. And the question, as you know, is can a woman have it all?
So I think my response is, and you'll probably draw that out from the conversations I've had, that I believe
Yeah,
none of us can have it all. None of us can have it all. We all have to make our choices, and all of us are, so Sheryl Sandberg says that all of us are dealing with a constrained optimization called life.
yes.
So we are constantly choosing what we want to do, and as long as we are making the right choices, it's going to be very fulfilling, and then we have it all.
That is correct. But why do people ask this question only of women and not of men?
It's very ironic. This question was asked to Indra Nui, and then she answered in the negative, which I really thought was very ironic because, as I said, if I was asked this question, I would say that no one can have it all. The men also have to make their choices.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm sure, and in many ways, I can say that a lot of men would rather just, have choose to do things that a lot of us can do. Just for their own emotional happiness or their own emotional well-being. And we sometimes discount that. We sometimes, as women, discount that because we believe that men are only aspiring for their career goal or ambition, which probably is not as true.
Yeah.
So I think none of us can have it all. We all make our choices, and in this constrained optimization, which is called life, we make all the right choices. And once we do them on our own, we are having it all because we've made our own choices.
So I think that is the difference. I think somewhere we've grown up knowing and seeing that sometimes women are not able to make those choices. So in that sense, maybe they can't have it all. But yes, if you have that ability, and that empowerment to be able to make your choices, then it is an all for you. Of course,
Absolutely.
you still have to make choices, but choices have to be free and independent.
Absolutely. Free willing and
yes.
Absolutely.
That is
it. That's how I look at it.
Great. So thank you. It was really wonderful.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta.
And very, very interesting views. And I love the thought of what you are planning to do in the next 10 years. I think this is like really giving back, which all of us should be doing in whatever little way, we can do, because like it's about the drop in the ocean. So, whatever we can contribute, I think it's great. So all the best. And
thank you. Totally enjoyed my conversation, Sangeeta, with you as always. I look forward to you doing many more of these and more success to you. So thank you.
Thank you.